Welcome back to the Gregory Neesmith Show, a special delivery of underdog stuff. It's also a special mix of politics, culture, and personal development stuff for underdogs, too. Grateful to go on the journey with you every week live from the studios of WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. And, we do this together every week. You can call in at 212-650-6903, or you can follow along on the Facebook Live at facebook.com/Gregory Neesmith. And normally it's just me and you and me, just us. But we got company today. I had to straighten up the studio. When you got people coming over, you got, did you make sure you clean? The bathroom's got to be clean. You got to make sure the living room, you got any food in the fridge. And Angela, we have no food in the studio. That's not allowed.
I was going to ask.
No.
It's like, where's my water?
No. You're going to get me kicked off the air. There is no food and water allowed in the studio. If it got on this expensive equipment, there's a good problem.
Good point.
So none of us have any water or food in the studio.
Not
Just
at
wanted
all.
to let that. But I hope you do if you're out there listening. But yes, we got company. And that company is that of Courtney Liddell.
Hello.
Certified yoga instructor. And if she sounds familiar, that voice, or if you're watching along online and you're like, oh, she looks familiar, it might be because you've seen her at Family Yoga at the Bronx Settlement Community Center or Harlem YMCA, maybe.
That's correct.
Yes.
And joining Courtney is Tressa Fulton.
Woo.
Yes, indeed. Currently Agency Relations Manager with New York City's Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. One of the longest titles I've ever read on the radio in my life without taking a breath. Yes, indeed. And she's also currently curates a monthly event that combines yoga and live jazz. By the way, it's Black Music Month. Shout out to Black music.
Celebrate it.
Not just the contribution we made to jazz, but even
All
music. And that event is called Move and Groove. And it's cool. It combines music, movement, and wellness. And we'll talk more about that.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome, Courtney and Tressa.
Thank you for having us.
Hey,
Thank you.
Yeah, great to be here.
I appreciate you. It's nice to have some company.
Yay.
Cool. So I've been telling folks this is episode 77. We talked howling dogs earlier. This whole idea of sometimes we don't make change in our lives until the nail's in deep enough, which is natural. I've done some things in my life where I haven't made changes until something traumatic has happened. But oftentimes it's good to make some change because we find out something new that we're really into, or we just get in touch with like how we feel, like we're just not feeling good and we want to feel better. Hopefully we'll get to talk about maybe Move and Groove could be one of the things that maybe some folks do to help get their wellness in a different direction. So let's talk about yoga.
Wow. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about yoga.
So for people who have listened to the show, they know that I've been saying I'm going to take a yoga class for about a year.
Have you taken it yet?
No, I haven't.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and shame on me because there's like lots of Americans who are doing yoga and things like that. Why, of all the things you could be doing in the world, why are you messing with yoga?
I'll go first. I hate cardio.
Okay.
So yoga actually for me has been a physical as well as a mental journey, in the sense that I think ideally we all need some physical activity in our lives. And I found yoga actually to calm my spirit down and help me get centered. And then there's certain things in life where you feel like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And so there are a lot of ways that I approach yoga poses the same way. I can't do this, I can do that. And then lo and behold, I'm doing it. And I actually enjoy the way that I feel afterwards. I think it's a really great practice. And it is something that's different in that, like, it's not a traditional, you can run on a treadmill or you can run around a track to get some sort of like muscle tone and stuff. But it's something that I've always enjoyed. And I always wanted to share it with other people.
Okay. Cool. So if I hate cardio, yoga is the thing for me.
That's the thing. So at the same time, I've met people who are like, yoga, you just breathing, you ain't doing nothing. I'm like, you just stretching. But guess what? I'm lifting all my body weight. And that's not, we're not 2 pounds. I'm working out. I am.
Okay. So I may get into yoga.
I would love for that to happen.
This might be the universe saying,
yes,
I've avoided so long. They're like, we're going to send 2 people here to tell you and other dogs about yoga.
I think that's the purpose.
That's the purpose. Thank you.
Fair enough. And for you underdogs out there too, if you've been thinking about it, this might be your opportunity to like take that thought and put some action to it. Courtney, you could instruct anybody about anything. How talented you are. And you have chosen as one of the things that you give to the world is yoga. Why?
Or maybe it chose me. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
The first time I ever took a yoga class, and I'll tell you how I got into it. A good friend of the family, and this is going back until like the early 80s. She was a yoga instructor.
Early 80s.
Yeah, I was 5 years old, and I took a yoga class because I was friends with this woman's children, and we all hung out together, and she was a yoga instructor, so we took her class. And I only probably took a class with her once or twice, but she's such a presence in my life. I think that other side of yoga, how to be, she's like another mother to me. Like I learned that from her. But actually getting into, and without going too far, all the different styles of yoga and different facets of yoga, what most people think of as yoga, you see people putting their legs behind their heads and all that type of stuff. That's asana practice.
That's different.
Asana?
Asana. So that is the physical aspect of yoga.
And you know why I'm not going to commit that to memory? Because I know I can't put my leg behind my head. So I don't.
Not yet.
Well, you do some other stuff. You might just hold it out in front of you.
Get me to the one that I can do.
But I mean, any yoga poses you see, that is asana practice. And it's one facet of yoga. But I started to develop an asana practice probably in my early 30s, purely out of vanity, if I'm being honest. I was at the Harlem YMCA, and there was a young woman there who was really fit, was going to boot camp classes, and she could just do everything. It was her, my friend Fatima, and this woman, Miss Sylvia, who was older. Now, if you remember Miss Sylvia, she's older than everybody, but you never saw her cheat a rep of anything. This is in boot camp class. And Fatima had an injury as a child, and she can only bend one leg. This girl is all like muscle, And the two of them said, "Oh, after boot camp, you should come to yoga." And I was looking at the two of them like, I'm doing whatever it is that they're doing. And I got into that class, and I was sweating like nobody's business, because I thought I was going to go in there and start stretching, and it was just not what I expected at all. And I think those other things that Tressa started to talk about started to take over. I remember, and this is at the Y, so there's some of everyone at the Y. I remember seeing like a older, heavy sister just busting out headstands. And it just, none of it was what I thought it was. And now I'm able to do those things that I never thought I could do. And that kind of led me down the path to become a teacher.
That's awesome. And you mentioned, and I think a little bit from both of you, about some things were unexpected. So, I'm thinking I'm just going to stretch, or you're thinking, or I might think I got to put my head behind my head and legs behind my head. And that's not really the case. But oftentimes when we're thrown for a loop or something doesn't meet our expectations, we can get a little taken aback, or maybe like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Can you share a little bit about how you got through maybe some of your struggles with yoga? Because it seems like something that people, once they are in it, it's like a lifestyle. But was it like easier? Like, oh, yoga, day one, I'm going to be in this forever. Or talk a little bit about like what you struggled with before it became your thing.
Well, for me, this is another thing that's a little deeper in that. I have a very Christian family, and I think they had created some biases in that what they thought yoga was about was praying to different gods and all that stuff. And then that was a struggle for me, because I'm like, oh my God, am I stepping into something that's a religious thing, or what am I stepping into? So what I found out and what I did not expect, it really is a centering thing versus a religious thing. It's about humankind and community. And I've always been about my community. I've been raised to serve another person, to serve myself, to bring wellness and bring kindness into the world. And that's what yoga really was about for me versus a religious thing. Also, a lot of things that I mean, sometimes you're embarrassed about how your body looks in comparison to everyone. And it's the same thing in regular life. You're maybe on a train platform. You're like, oh, her skirt look cuter than mine, like whatever. But if you're on the yoga mat, it's you and that yoga mat. You're not thinking of all these things outside of you. So there was some struggles about not focusing so much on the outside. It was definitely a struggle for me to remember to focus internally. And also pushing myself in a healthy way, and even congratulating my successes. sometimes I'm really like, ooh, I made it to class today because I know I had an attitude soon as I got in that door.
That's the celebration sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes just showing up is a big deal.
Just showing up. And, you know, we've had yoga teachers. Well, funny thing is, we've had a yoga teacher who tell us it's not nice to be mean to your yoga teacher. Because I would sit there and roll my eyes because I really did not want to do a pose, or I thought she was crazy, like whatever. But those are struggles. You have to get out of yourself and just try. And so there were certain things that happened where we had some great music that brought me to yoga, you know. So those are some things that of course Courtney can talk more on what her struggles are too. I don't want to take the whole time.
No, that's you bring up some things that I'm sure people are listening going, oh yeah, I was worried about how I look.
Yeah.
I literally was like, do I wear socks or not? Does that mean
every
I need to get a
guy
every guy
asks me
thinks
that.
do I need to get a pedicure?
Yeah,
like, do I wear like the
pedicure.
tights with no shorts over? I'm used to wearing baggy basketball shorts. I'm like, can I be in the back of the class?
You can be in the back of the class. It's my favorite spot.
But no, this is, but I'm glad you said that because in my head, I'm like, I really am still thinking about like, do I need to get a pedicure before I go? Like, do I need grips on the socks thing? Do I need to buy? I mean, they said Americans are now spending $10 billion a year on yoga classes and equipment.
Right.
Okay.
And what you need is a mat, some pants. We're not doing a naked yoga class, so you definitely need some clothes.
No, I'm bringing clothes.
Great. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. You kind of like, you almost permitting all these barriers from you get into class, right? And that's why if somebody's really doing yoga, they minding their own business on their mat. They ain't think about you. They really shouldn't be. You know what I mean? So there's a sense of that you could remove that barrier and just come prepared to do a workout in a sense, but a workout that's a healthy thing for your mind as well.
I think, and I want to piggyback on that because that's such a good question and such a good point that you brought up about one religion. I know a lot of people
Black people
are, especially.
especially.
And the person who
You
encouraged,
can say it.
we can say it.
Oh, that's right. We in Harlem.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
The person who encouraged me
Right.
to become a yoga instructor said you should do it because there are not enough. And she did. We're in a public space. She did the little, when we point in the back of our hand.
Yeah.
There's not
enough of us.
Not enough of us
who don't think that you're going to go to hell for doing these yoga poses. That's what she told me. And
people putting legs behind their head and like they oming and who are they praying to?
Exactly. And people and I think yoga definitely has. It's been cultivated in India, for thousands of years. Yeah. So there's some ties to things that are culturally Indian, and the Hindu religion is part of that. But that is the Hindu religion. Yoga doesn't ask you to change your religion.
No, it doesn't.
And if you go to a lot of yoga centers, like they span all religions. They, whatever you come as you are, you bring your own religious practice. I think another thing that when you're talking about barriers, a lot of people, when you talk about body type, when you think of yoga in these studios and how expensive it is, and you got to have these leggings, one good thing and one reason that I'm really glad I started my practice at the Harlem Y is that it's a diverse place, not just in terms of color, which is very important, but in terms of age and in terms of body type. So a lot of people might not feel comfortable walking into this large studio downtown where everybody has a yoga practice and the average age is 27.5 years old.
And they were in $70 leggings for no good reason.
And it's mostly white females, blonde, and their ponytail is exactly that. There's this perception of that's what yoga is. And that is not what yoga is. Like, Black people have been practicing yoga. Yoga has been in Harlem for a long time. And I think that's part of the thing that we really want to do with our classes is to make sure we look out and we see that diversity, and also to create a place where everybody feels comfortable coming in. We can start breaking down some of those barriers. That's really, really important to me as a teacher.
That's awesome. You're listening to the Gregory Neesmith Show live like we do here every Sunday from noon to 2 p.m. And we have special guests in the building for episode 77.
Gotta play that number.
Yes, indeed. Play those lucky sevens. Today's episode, Howlin' Dog, Swagger Back, and Yoga Flow. And that's because we have Miss Courtney Liddell and Tressa Fulton talking about yoga, jazz, and Harlem. they're also a part of an event that happens every month called Move and Groove, which we'll
Right.
talk about before we get out of here. But so far, we've just been talking about
Yeah.
the big picture of yoga. We've been talking about God.
We did talk about
God loves you and so do I. Sunday.
Right. Yes.
We've been talking about that is more than just stretching.
Yeah.
And come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Bring clothes, but come as you are.
Yes.
Because
Right.
yoga welcomes you, and it is for everybody. And I love what you said, Courtney, from the idea of, we talk mirror sometimes in arts and literature. We talk the window, and the mirror is like, it's good when you see people that look
Oh
like
my
you
gosh.
Yeah, it's
doing
important.
stuff.
It's so cool.
And so then you feel like, oh, maybe it is for
Yeah.
me. So I appreciate that you're giving some underdogs out there who may not look like the classic, whatever old school classic yoga person is, that they're like, no, yoga looks like everybody.
A lot of men will say.
A lot of men. There's some professional football players who've been over even to India and gotten trained. Like, so I would never think, I think there are a lot of people who are open to it. And then,
but a lot of guys feel like it's not for men. I hear that
for
all
everybody.
the time. No,
they
what's
can
the
do
thing
some
that women do
poses that we can't really successfully
and women
do.
used to not be allowed to practice yoga. Like that's
a whole
how
level.
Well, I love that you're changing, because some of the stats say that about 80% of people who practice yoga are women.
Right.
And now, and like, I'm going to help change that number in 2018.
You bring the number down.
Bring that number down.
So if I want to get into some yoga and I'm in Harlem and I might be an underdog, or some of the brothers and sisters who've been, had some of these hangups, why am I going to jazz and yoga? Like now I'm like, I don't even know much about yoga, and now I may not even know much about jazz.
Well, I mean, straight up, music is just something that feeds the soul. And I mean, even, when we even talk about church and gospel and the hymns and how it gets to our soul,
how we move
and how we move towards the beat. It's something that is so much more approachable. I definitely feel like my first yoga classes that featured music by Stevie Wonder moved me. And I was like, oh, I could do this, and I can even do this at home. So, so bringing together, I think the foundation and basis of music, which is jazz music, it creates an experience. And the Move and Groove yoga situation is that our sessions are at the Jazz Museum of Harlem, and they feature live pianists, live artists that are in and of Harlem. And I don't know, it just sets this wonderful tone. I don't know, Courtney, if you had more to say about why jazz music.
Why jazz? Well, I can tell you a little bit how that partnership came to be. I was teaching at another studio, and we were doing I'll talk about the
Asali Yoga.
Yes, I was shout out to Erica and Asali. But we decided to do an album classic. So we would practice yoga to one album. We did Tribe Called Quest. I think Stevie Wonder might have been the first one. We did Outkast. I got the idea from the music. I got the idea from Outkast. Yeah. So if you come to my class where we don't have live live musicians, I still try to have great music. But I remember I was at home listening to Outkast, and I was like, I could do a class. This is so operatic. Like it has, highs and lows. But we got to jazz. It was around a Valentine's Day, and I didn't have a man. So I was like, I'm going to do this class to celebrate universal love, because that's the only type that I'm getting. So it was, so we decided to do a Love Supreme class.
Hey, spread love, and the love will come back to you.
Yes.
That's it. It did. So universal love, John Coltrane, Love Supreme. The hurdle I had with that was I planned out this whole hour-and-a-half class. And as you know, that album is 30 minutes long, 39 minutes long. So we found like a bunch of adjacent artists, and we played some Alice Coltrane and everything. And then there was a meditation right before Love Supreme started. And then we carried through, and we wrapped up the class with Coltrane, Love Supreme. But it was a great class, and it was just this spark, like trying something different. And then Tressa had the idea like, oh, we should bring this to the National Jazz Museum. This is such a great partnership, and that was kind of the birth of it. And then we moved on to get live musicians. So it was a really organic partnership.
That's awesome. Well, learned a couple things just now.
You can do yoga to Outcast.
I do yoga to Outcast,
You
and
can.
should I take a pause to say that if there's any eligible men out there, they should call the show right now at 212-650-6903.
That phone ain't ring, boy.
You can ring my bell.
And speaking of shouting out the underdogs out there, shout out to the folks following along on the Facebook Live. Shout out to Daryl, one of my boys from.
Is that your pen?
Well, Daryl's one of my good friends from the 215. We grew up together.
Okay, cool.
So shout out to Daryl. And then also shout out to someone we know,
Who?
Zeke.
Hi, Zeke.
Yes,
What's
indeed.
up?
Shout out to the Riches.
Of course.
Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
that beautiful son.
He says,
Hey, Zeke.
Tressa in the building.
Hi. What's up? Miss you guys.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate
Right, we got to meet up.
Yes,
That's
the
somebody
fam.
working the city too.
the fam showing up and showing out, which is to me also another great example of one of the ways that Tressa and I know each other is through college, but also taking some trips
Oh yeah.
and doing something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe only 1 in 3 Americans have an active passport.
What?
Yeah, so think about it.
Mm.
There's folks that haven't experienced something new, seen different parts of the world, learning about themselves and about
Right.
the world. That's what happens when we get
Yeah.
out of our area.
And we think about that too. Funny thing is, I think we talk about doing yoga everywhere. One of my birthdays, I went to Belize, and Courtney went with me, and we did yoga out in Belize on the water. Courtney just went to Bali.
Yeah.
It's just like, just
Wherever I go, there's
Yeah.
some yoga happening.
Yes, and my point for underdogs out there, yes, love for you to get your passport like
Yes.
today, but if you can't, you can still start to try new experiences
Oh, yeah,
even
right
at
here.
home
Yeah.
in Harlem,
Yeah.
like Move and Groove.
Yes.
Talk to me about what's Move and Groove, because you guys were featured in a New York Times article that talked about museums
Right.
combining art,
Yes.
and it can literally be like art I can see or art
Mhm.
that I can
Right.
listen to and move to. And so you're part of this movement.
Yeah.
And tell folks, like, what is Move and Groove? When is it? What is it?
Okay. So
What's this Hug of Harlem thing?
that's how I feel. It's a hug for Harlem, a hug of Harlem, hug for Harlem, hug in Harlem. I don't know. So so the Jazz Museum in Harlem is a nonprofit located in Harlem, and it is of jazz and musicians and history of jazz. And frankly, they had a low attendance rating, and they didn't have, a lot of people didn't know about them,
Okay.
right? But I always appreciated it, and this is how I ended up developing the partnership. Courtney and another friend of ours had introduced me to this museum, and I learned so much about it. And there's this thing about meeting and learning from the elders that are in our community, and they were the ones who were always in there and telling them, like, back in the day at Alhambra, like that's something that's
They got
Harlem.
stories.
They got stories
Yes.
of doing dances and musicians and stuff. So I was like, hey, I know you guys also want people, Jazz Museum of Harlem, I know you want people to learn about you, but hey, we think that this would be a great way. I said it personally. I support a lot of nonprofits. This is my new way of supporting a nonprofit. All of the classes, the tickets that are low price of $10 goes back to support the museum. The museum supports jazz musicians. It supports cultivation of jazz. So this is my way of helping. I get other people around this world and around this city to help me raise funds for the supporting of the Jazz Museum of Harlem. So it happens once a month, the second Saturday of the month. So we tell people to come around 3:30 to set up and all that good stuff. But our first OM is at 4:00, and it's an hour-long situation.
Well, time out. You said something that some people
OM?
who are maybe not familiar with
With
yoga are just like, they chanting over here. Like, what's OM?
OM is a breath.
Om is it's
Y'all talking that yoga language. You gotta let folks
difficult
know.
to. Om is I best heard it described as the sound of everything and the sound of nothing. The sound of the universe spinning. So when you hear the monks chanting that Om, that's what it's replicating, and we just all vibrate together for a moment.
Or how, like, all of us Black people, when we get to church, there's a point of you sitting in one space all together at the same time in silence, and you are all saying amen.
Amen.
So it's kind of sort of everyone as a community coming together to start off. And that's really what that, I think sometimes we say when we say first OM.
Okay.
So that was how Move and Groove Yoga came to be with the Jazz Museum in Harlem. And it started off with playlists. And it started off with, iPod DJ kind of situation. And then, of course, they had musicians who were at the ready. And these are wonderful artists like David Durrah and Kelly Green. And they have albums out and they do sessions. And this is like, you come into yoga and everyone just seems to come out like with a release and a relief. And they feel warm. They feel really good. And I think also because they're with their community members. That makes a difference.
Tell people how to get there.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
What we are.
Okay.
With that, though,
yes,
I want folks to let that marinate for a little while. The whole Om thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything, and then it's
nothing.
And that could be everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll find out
Marinate.
more details about Move and Groove, yoga, and jazz. And we're going to play a game of True False, too.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. Can yoga do this for you? True or false?
Okay.
Yoga, jazz, like I'm with it. Move and groove. Sounds good. Where is it? When is it? How do I get there?
So Jazz Museum of Harlem is located at 58 West 129th Street. So our sessions are the second Saturday. We have one upcoming on the 14th of July. Again, we set up around 3:30 and we start out at 4 o'clock. It's an hour-long class. We are breaking for August, but you could catch us actually in Martha's Vineyard. We're going to have a session there.
You fancy, huh?
We ain't fancy. We just...
The people are everywhere.
We
serve the people.
We serve the people.
I'm not mad at y'all. I'm congratulating.
The regular people, the fancy people.
Our migration made it to Martha's Vineyard. And then we'll start back up.
Is Obama going to be there?
You never know.
We took a class with Michelle Obama
last year. Unexpected.
Rainy
Tuesday. Michelle does yoga.
Hold on.
So if you ain't doing yoga, what's wrong with your life?
Hold on.
If Michelle can do yoga, what's wrong with your life?
So y'all up in the New York Times, and now you're like, well, yeah, sometimes we do yoga with Michelle.
It was the most wonderful surprise in our lives.
We walk, like I was saying, wherever I go, I'm doing some yoga.
Tuesday morning, rainy as whatever.
Tressa found the studio. We went
yoga barn. I was like, I just want to see what it's like.
And what it's like is Michelle Obama was there.
Yeah, and her friends.
So you were in the class or you were teaching the class?
No, I wasn't teaching class. I was in the class. I don't know if I could have held it together.
No, it was so
props to that teacher.
So that was the one time when I wasn't paying attention to my mat.
See, I would have needed to wear my socks that day. People would have been looking around.
It was the hardest class. That may have been the hardest class to focus on me.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful experience. And then again, that always continues to enrich my heart and spirit that there is yoga for everybody. Anybody can do it.
That's cool. And then actually I was looking up some stats about yoga before you guys came on. I wanted to get a little up to speed on it, and it's cool that you mentioned about the journey you were on and how it may have been uncomfortable at first, but get over it and people focus on themselves, because 44% of folks consider themselves beginners who are in yoga.
Yes.
So a lot of folks are like still feel like, I'm just...
It's a practice.
You're always a beginner.
Yeah.
See, so now the Om is everything and nothing, and now I'm going to be a beginner for the rest of my life in yoga.
You may not be. It's a practice. Yoga is a practice.
All right, well, speaking of what yoga is and isn't, we're going to play a quick game of true or false yoga.
All right.
Harlem style. All right. Because of yoga, I will become more flexible.
I'm going to say true on that.
That's a true.
Okay. All right. Cool. Because of yoga, I will be more stressed because I'm be worried about people looking at my body, my feet, my everything.
That's a false.
I'm going to say that's both. You might feel that way initially, but you're going to get over that and it's going to become false.
Okay. So it's false or true?
It's false.
Okay. I know. I just want to make sure. I don't want to leave like, oh my goodness, it's just true. I'm going to be that. No, it's false.
It's false.
Okay. The long game is false.
Yes. There you go.
Because of yoga, I'm going to build muscle strength.
Oh, yes.
True. Most definitely.
Definitely.
For those who may not be watching the Facebook Live or
Did you just
the video on YouTube, Tressa is, exercising her Second Amendment right, and she's out here
when I lift my body, I am weight training. Yes, true.
Okay. When I take yoga for the first time this summer,
yay!
I will drop my blood pressure.
That is a good question. I need my disclaimer.
Okay.
I am not a doctor.
The views expressed by
There you
Courtney and Tressa and
yes.
Gregory are those of their own, and we please consult your
Please.
physician for things related to your medical condition.
Right.
So, with that said, I think that is possible, especially if it is stress related.
Yes.
And I think that first step of yoga will help you get into more of a wellness space.
Yeah.
So it starts with the physical. You start feeling better. You might want to start eating a little better as a
Yeah.
result of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of yoga, it will help my dating life.
If you're a guy, most definitely.
That was July 14th.
Yes. July 14th.
3:30.
And if you didn't miss
What's
that,
the address?
so the address is 58 West 129th Street, Harlem, New York.
Oh, it's gonna be a
Look,
summer.
don't come in here back.
So again, the practice also involves doing yoga, right? So we can congregate after class.
That comment was just for entertainment purposes. I will go focused on the inside out.
Yeah.
But also, it's true.
Fair enough. All right. Speaking of that, let me get focused again. Yoga can help me focus.
True.
True.
Okay.
True.
Oh, you said that one like
Emphatically.
okay. Awesome. So then I'm gonna go to yoga maybe for another reason, but I'm gonna stay focused.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. And last but not least, can yoga improve my balance?
Yes.
Okay.
True.
That sounds like you're
Yeah.
You should
pretty sure about
definitely.
Yes.
It's been. I feel like I'm gonna have to knock on wood. I'm a clumsy person. It's been a little while since I tripped.
Don't say that out. Don't speak that into the
Not on the
universe.
7,
No, I mean,
7, not on
yeah,
7,
It's
7.
been
Keep
it's
that
been
7
several
for the
years
pod.
since I've like
Yeah.
I used to trip and fall a lot, and I think that
Universe, you didn't hear her. We're gonna. I'm
No.
cutting her mic off.
it hears everything. I think that some of that was balance is focus.
Yes.
But we're going to work on balancing on one leg and on our hands and on our heads, and you're going to strengthen those tiny little parts that help to hold you up.
I think it's also great for posture. I do.
Yeah.
I believe there's a sense of, raising your shoulders back, that kind of thing. So yeah.
All right, one more true or false. Last one. Move and Groove, music, movement, and wellness
Yes.
that partners with the National Jazz Museum in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
Open level class, Vinyasa Flow Yoga.
Yes.
Vinyasa flow.
Vinyasa.
Yep, and live accompaniment by a rotation of museum selected musicians.
Mm-hmm.
It's a donation-based class deemed a hug for Harlem that welcomes new visitors to the space.
Yes.
It's the best place to go do some yoga in the
Yes.
city. True or false?
That's
True.
true.
Very true.
You speak the truth.
You
my
speak
friend.
the truth, my brother.
Underdogs, you heard it here. I'm speaking the truth, at least when it comes to jazz and yoga in Harlem.
You do have to pre-register. We welcome walk-ins, but we definitely appreciate your pre-registration, and you'll find information on our moveandgrooveyoga.com website as well as the nationaljazzmuseum.org. So we welcome you. It saves us making sure we got space to accommodate everybody. But yeah, we would love to see everyone in Harlem just take part. And we also look for, different partnerships. There's wonderful ways. There's rooftops that we're looking for. I think a sunset salutation is a wonderful situation. And some folks have been talking about vinyls and vinyasa, like having a DJ. Like we're just thinking of so many creative ideas to, again, share this practice, which means I'm sharing it and Courtney is sharing it with our community. We want y'all to calm down. Just calm down.
So I definitely think all those classes, all those things, you can go to moveandgrooveyoga.com. That's our website. And there you can register for the National Jazz Museum site. You can also go to the Jazz Museum site, but it would be a long URL for me to give you.
Yeah.
But National Jazz Museum in Harlem. But you can get all of the other things we're doing outside of the museum, along with the museum, if you go to
and
Move
Courtney,
and Groove Yoga.
you curated some wonderful playlists.
Forgot to mention.
And that's on our website too. So again, we love this music situation.
You can check out the Coltrane playlist
Yeah.
that came about.
Love Supreme.
Okay, very cool. So before we get you out of here, I want folks to know two things.
Okay.
If they want some more Courtney or Tressa, how can they get in touch with you or follow you online and things like that? And then also, if folks want more information about Move and Groove, where do they go to get it?
Okay. So Instagram, we do have a Move and Groove Yoga. We have our website, moveandgrooveyoga.com. I'm on Instagram as well, Tressa409. What else,
Mine is
Courtney?
Courtney_Elid. That's complicated. Go to Move and Groove Yoga.
Yeah.
Go where? What?
Go to Move and Groove
Groove
Yoga
Yoga.
on Instagram,
And website.
moveandgrooveyoga.com. There's a contact us. You can
Mhm.
you can tell us whatever you want us to know.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can sign up for our newsletter there.
Right.
Please do. I want to thank Courtney Liddell and Tressa Fulton for coming through,
Wow. That's
talking to the underdogs out there. We kicked off the show talking about howling dogs, and sometimes we don't move to the nail gets deep enough. If fitness is on your list this year, and specifically this summer, you're looking for ways to get your wellness up.
Yes.
Don't wait for the nail to be in so deep. Go get some jazz, some Harlem, and some yoga on at Move and Groove. And if that's not your thing, there's other things out there to go do this summer for your wellness and fitness. Don't let the nail get in so deep before you go make that change. I want to thank Tressa and Courtney for coming through. And as always, I want to thank you out there for coming through. We don't have a show without your phone calls, without your online comments. Shout out to everyone who's been riding around in Harlem, listening on 90.3 FM on their radio dial, to folks using the World Wide Web. I don't even know if people say the World Wide Web anymore,
right?
but just in case you do,
Interwebs.
I probably shouldn't have said it, but if you're listening on www.whr.org, we appreciate you anywhere in the world. And of course, those following along on Facebook Live at facebook.com, Gregory Neesmith, appreciate you. Shout out also to the folks that make this show possible. Megan, my producer, who gets all the information, helped me play true or false with Tressa and Courtney today. Getting the audio clips, all that good stuff. Appreciate you, Megan, and to Kayla, who does the editing and makes us sound and look good. We appreciate that too. With that, if you miss any of the live show, this is a podcast.
Yes.
Every Monday and Wednesday on GregoryNeesmith.com or popular podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Podomatic, Spotify. You'll get to hear the show just in case you missed any of it. With that, as always, I'll leave you with my favorite quote. And if you listened to the show before, you can say it along with me. Underdogs, can't nobody, and I mean nobody, can't nobody do it like you do it. Nobody. Peace.